So it's just a matter of picking up the pieces and putting it back together, get our lives back together.
All right, so that's the surge component. That is the surge component from Michael, and that is St. Mark's. All right, so that's I'm trying to give you a quick estimate here. That's probably 100, maybe 120 miles from landfall point, maybe even a little bit more, as you go as the crow flies in Appalachia Bay. But remember, we talked about how that water was going to get pushed up in there. Apalachicola, by the way, 7.72 feet of storm surge. That is a new record all time for Apalachicola, and it broke their old record surge by a foot. But, you know, again, that's the surge. Mexico City, Cape San Blas, or Port St. Joe, those areas saw the eastern eye wall. All right, and then Panama City, where I am, saw the western eye wall. There's extensive damage at Tyndall Air Force Base. The town of Callaway, which is just due north of Tyndall Air Force Base, also extensive damage in that town as well. And so whether you try and go to Mexico Beach around all this, it's pretty hard to get through it because we even had 115-mile-per-hour wind gusts all the way into southwest Georgia. At the height of this, about 1 million customers without power. Now I think we've dwindled that down to about 680,000 customers. So that's still a lot. And a lot of this, of course, the closer you get to the core of it, it will take much, much longer to go through. One thing I have not seen, at least here, but I'm sure, you know, again, we just got on scene. We just came across the bridge, and this is into, you know, Panama City proper, population 180,000, is, you know, just every pole snapped off in through here. Structures like this where the roof goes, that pretty means the rest of it. I mean, this looks like, you know, strong EF1, EF2 type damage in through here. You know, it's just not daylight. We haven't had a chance to walk around. But leaving Panama City Beach, making our 10-mile trek in here, there's pretty much no power. There was one little spot near the police station that had some power and even a little bit of cell service too, and that was about it. That's about all we had in through here, Kelly. So this is very much in terms of the aftermath, a breaking story. We don't know everything yet. Unfortunately, 2 people have lost their lives, and that's too many. Yeah. Kelly, back to you.
Exactly, Jim. And besides power poles, but cell towers have also been compromised as well across the region. So, again, we'll get a better idea, a better look at the damage as we get more and more daylight. But this video taken right after landfall. This is Mexico Beach, ground zero, if you will, when it comes to the landfall of a Category 4 hurricane, nearly a Cat 5, 155-mile-per-hour winds doing this kind of damage. It's like a giant tornado just came through here, and you can see all the debris just strewn about, trees knocked over, not just knocked over, but split. And this is why evacuations have to happen at the coastline. We're talking about a hurricane. The storm surge was a concern as well. All right, we've got more video coming in, this time from Panama City Beach, where, of course, Jim was riding out the storm yesterday. The winds just whipping across Oceanfront Street. Winds even inside the building. McDonald's sign damaged. There it is right there. Utility poles, traffic lights ripped off. You know, in some places across the Panhandle, there is still a curfew, meaning there's too much dangerous debris out there. So authorities are asking people to stay off the roads. I know a lot of people are anxious to get back and survey the damage, but you just have to be patient in a situation like this. All right, so we are still dealing with a tropical storm at this hour. No longer a major hurricane as we saw yesterday. But I tell you what, the structure really held together. Of course, it was a Cat 4 making landfall 12:30 yesterday afternoon Central Time, and then still a major hurricane as it worked its way into Georgia, well inland, because this thing was moving so quickly. It was such a strong hurricane, and now we're finally starting to see those winds die down, but the damage is done, as Jim just talked about, in terms of power outages. You can see the counties that are highlighted here in Georgia. We're talking 10, 20,000 customers without power, and especially down here in the Panhandle, where it could take some time, especially when poles are involved, not just wires. So here's a look at the power outage tracker. Again, the majority here in Florida, Georgia, 348,000 customers without power. Even Atlanta, with the gusty winds that we're seeing, we have a lot of trees in this part of the state. So we still could be finding more power outages as we go through the day. And we still have tropical storm conditions likely across the Carolinas and eastern Georgia. That's why we still have the tropical storm warnings in effect. It is still a tropical entity even now. So here's a look at the flooding that's ongoing with those heavier rain bands just to the east of our center, over the center of South Carolina, including Columbia. We picked up about an inch of rainfall just in the last hour. We have the gusty winds on top of that, gusting to 40. Charleston, your gusty gusting over 40 miles per hour, and even back towards Atlanta. It'll be a tough commute out there for sure with the wet streets, the winds blowing around, and yes, there is going to be the possibility of airport delays as well, so definitely check ahead. All right, so the pink, the red on the map showing you the strongest winds just to the east of our center as it moves its way through the Carolinas. There's Raleigh by 2 o'clock this afternoon, 35 to 40 mile per hour gusts. We can't rule out the possibility of isolated tornadoes. There is a severe component as well, and then we bring those winds up toward the mid-Atlantic, 25, 40 miles per hour. All right, let's head back now to Panama City, Florida with Jim Cantori.
All right, Kelly, as we've been talking about, again, this is still very much a breaking situation in terms of, just how widespread this damage is. We know it's there. We know there's significant structural damage, especially where the eastern eye wall was. But this behind me, again, is the western eye wall that's really hit Panama City very, very hard. All right, the center going right over Tyndall Air Force Base, right over Callaway yesterday. In my opinion, kind of a rare daytime landfall. Usually these things come in.
Do these moves look familiar? Then you might have a condition called dry mouth. Biotene is clinically proven to soothe and moisturize a dry mouth. Plus, it freshens breath. Biotene, immediate and long-lasting dry mouth symptom relief.
Here we go. Discover.
I like your card, but I'm absolutely not paying an annual fee.
Discover has no annual fees.
Really? Yeah.
We just don't believe in them.
Oh, nice. You would not believe how long I've been rehearsing that.
No annual fee on any card, only from Discover.
With worsening weather patterns, an aging vulnerable power grid, and the growing risk of cyber terrorism, power outages are a part of life now. That can be stressful because we depend on power more than ever. When the power goes out, we lose everything. We can't even charge our smartphones. Now more than ever, you need a Generac automatic home standby generator. With prices starting at just $19.99, you can afford to always have the power you need. With Generac, power stays on in your house, even if you're not at home.
I know that when the power goes out, that Generac is going to kick on and I'm going to have power powering my whole house.
If it's out for 15 minutes or 4 days, we're going to be okay.
We have control over what happens in our lives now.
Generac gives us that peace of mind because it is our power grid.
Call or go online to schedule your free in-home assessment. Generac has more than 5,000 dealers nationwide that will help you select a home standby generator that will meet your needs and fit within your budget. They'll discuss installation and provide you with a comprehensive estimate. It's a totally free assessment with no obligation to buy. Generac's automatic home standby generators start at just $19.99. Special financing is available with affordable monthly payments. Plus, with the Generac mobile link, you can check on your generator anytime from anywhere in the world. With the highest quality construction, exceptional dependability, and state-of-the-art technology, it's easy to see why Generac is the #1 brand of automatic home standby generators in the world. Call or go online to schedule your free in-home assessment. And if you act right now, you'll receive our 7-year extended limited warranty, a $695 value, absolutely free. Control your power and control your life with a Generac automatic home standby generator.
This is just complete devastation.
This was the third most intense hurricane to make landfall in U.S. history.
As I said, there's going to be a lot of good people hurting.
It literally just looks like a war zone.
As I think back over the last 24 hours, standing here in downtown Panama, Florida, to watch the pressure dropping and dropping and dropping and never stopping. That was one of the most amazing, and this was number 98 for me personally in terms of storm coverage. I can't believe that in the month of October. So we can go over the meteorology later, but so many people certainly in harm's way here. About a 25-mile swath here from Panama City over to the east of Mexico Beach, where we had essentially an EF2, EF3 tornado work its way through. And this is the western eye wall. You can see the damage here. Again, this is just about a mile from coming across the bridge. All right, and boom, this is what we came onto. No power all the way back to Panama City Beach for the most part. There's a couple of spots I saw lights, but either way, this is very much an assessment situation. 2 people have lost their lives with Hurricane Michael here. Historic pressure, as you heard Carl Parker talk about, 919 millibars, 3rd lowest in U.S. history for any month. So now it's about cleanup. It's about still maybe, I'm sure in areas, search and rescue mode and really coming to grips with what actually happened and through here. We still have a storm ongoing.
All right, we'll get back to Jim. Obviously, having some issues there technically, and cell phone towers still down across the area as well. So, again, a hard-hit area on the Panhandle where Hurricane Michael made that landfall as a Category 4 storm, just shy of Cat 5 status. Listen to this.
Oh, my God. Oh, there's hey. There's the rest of the building. Oh, there's a lot of the rest of the building.
All right, that is some fierce wind right there. Hurricane Michael just barreling through the Florida Panhandle with winds of 155 miles per hour. This is just shy of Category 5 strength. We have never seen this before as long as we've been keeping records across the Florida Panhandle, that eye coming ashore right around the Mexico Beach area. The landfall was Mexico Beach, but I tell you what, Panama City, the beach area as well, in that western eye wall for quite some time. The wrath definitely on full display. The city weathered the brunt of Hurricane Michael's destructive force, where the winds toppled trees, blew around stoplights, and ripped off roofs. Obviously, you should not be venturing out there this morning because of widespread damage and debris. A curfew in effect for Bay County until 8 o'clock this morning. And about 85 miles away, water roared into this neighborhood on St. George Island. This video is showing you just how bad the storm surge was with Michael as it made landfall. Now, the worst of the surge that we've seen along the Florida Panhandle was at Apalachicola, a record 7.73 feet. So we've got a recap. Of course, the storm making landfall at about 12:30 Central Time across the Florida Panhandle and holding itself together pretty well. This thing was moving rather quickly, still a major Category 3 as it moved into southern Georgia, and now, of course, moving out of Georgia into South Carolina as a tropical storm. So the good news is, first of all, that it's moving quickly. It's not going to sit and stall and produce 2 to 3 feet of rainfall. But the bad news is the winds have really kept strong with this system, and the pressure was so low, and these records go back to 1851. We are now the 3rd lowest pressure in terms of a landfalling tropical system, 919 millibars, basically Labor Day Hurricane 1935 and Camille topping that. But this was actually a lower pressure than both Katrina and Andrew, even in recent memory. So as we take a look at the winds associated with this system, you can see at landfall we had winds well over 100 miles per hour. Some of the anemometers failing, obviously, with these very strong winds. Apalachicola 89, Mariana 102 miles per hour, Port St. Joe 113. There's Tyndall Air Force Base taking a direct hit, and we'll have more from that scene coming up a little bit later this morning. 129 mile per hour winds. Now the system not packing the strong winds, but it's still packing a punch in terms of severe weather. We could still see tornadoes. Flooding is still a possibility as well, as we have right now in Columbia, South Carolina, and then it rapidly heads offshore by Friday morning, and then out to sea. It's going to get over the water, so it may actually strengthen a little bit by Friday afternoon, but thankfully it is well offshore by that time. So here's a look at the winds. Obviously, where you see the yellows and oranges on the radar, that's your heavier rain bands, and that's where we see the stronger winds too. Look at Columbia. We've got a southeast wind gusting 46 miles per hour. That's where you have the very heavy rain filling up the gauge to 1 inch in 1 hour. So another 2 to 4 inches of rain in our forecast. You can see Charlotte right there in the thick of things. We do have flash flood warnings ongoing, even in the high country of North Carolina as well. So I know we don't need the moisture disaster in the Carolinas. We are still reeling from Florence a month ago, but we're going to track this heavy rain through the Carolinas, eventually Virginia, and eventually working its way into parts of the Northeast as well. All right, we want to head back out to Panama City now with Jim Cantori, who, of course, had to weather the storm as it made landfall yesterday, Jim.
Yeah, Panama City Beach. Hey, Kel, before I lose you, I want to ask you, what are some of the winds that we're getting on the eastern side of this thing? Because now that the rain is getting, and really the wind probably, into that area where, Florence impacted that area so heavily. You know, as I was talking about yesterday, if we get 40, 45-mile-an-hour winds, those trees that are sitting in water, are they going to blow over? Are we getting 45-mile-an-hour gusts with that
That's a very good point. As a matter of fact, Columbia is gusting around 40 miles per hour. We are seeing some of those gusts picking up now as the center is now crossing out of Georgia into South Carolina. So, Jim, that's exactly right. We are still concerned about these trees, susceptible and vulnerable after Florence came through. It's not going to take much wind, probably not, like you said, 40-mile-per-hour winds that could do more damage.
Right. So, again, guys, don't be surprised, especially with those trees that are sitting in water. Thanks, Kelly. I put you kind of with that. You can see, again, as we just kind of look around us here and realize that we dealt with the western eye wall and the fact that this storm moved through Panama City. I want to show you what it was like in the Panama City area as we went through that western eye wall. Now, where I was and Steph was in Panama City Beach, we were about 5 miles, just 5 miles east of that eye wall. But the destruction, trucks overturned, horizontal rain, really the visibility less than a 20th of a mile here with the kind of horizontal rain that we get. And we had some decent gusts as well into Panama City Beach. But look at the destruction. Trucks, buildings, obviously water splashed over. One of the things I don't smell here this morning, which is good in Panama City, is the smell of gas. So at least where I am right now, in terms of major infrastructural issues, I'm sure some of that gas has been turned off. But all in all, this is just a lot of damage, architectural damage. All right, let's find out how Panama City Beach fared. We've got Mike Thomas, who yesterday on Panama City Beach. Mike, thanks for talking to us, of course, yesterday and today. What do you think? How do you think Panama City Beach has done with this?
I think we did remarkably well. We were expecting a lot worse for a little while, and I've been up and down the beach this morning looking at the beach itself. Looks good. A lot of our neighborhoods still have some power along Front Beach Road. A lot of trees got into some of it in the neighborhood, but we did remarkably well.
So if you look at us in Panama City and knowing how close we are to you, and this is where we dealt with the western eye wall, Panama City Beach, where you are off to my west, just missed this. You breathing a little sigh of relief for your city this morning?
Absolutely. I've been through several of these things, and there's a huge difference when you're on the west side as opposed to the east side. And people would be amazed at what just a few miles make in one of these things. And this was a bad one. We just got awfully lucky. That may be why they call us the Miracle Strip. We got lucky.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so Mayor Thomas, talk to me about what the plan is for Panama City Beach, because I know that you sent about 125,000 people home from fall break. Obviously, we don't want to make light of what's going on and through here, but this is your city. This is your jurisdiction to take care of. What is your plan going forward today in terms of cleanup there in Panama City Beach?
People will be washing off and opening up. My little business, I had a couple of minor damages. We'll fix them up. All the others will. A lot of people will open this afternoon. The rest of us will probably open tomorrow. It's going to take just a few minutes, but we are a tourist area, and we're welcoming them here. And our residents have done remarkably well. I rode through some of the neighborhoods this morning. They already got their limbs out by the road. They're ready to get picked up. People have been through this, and they're going to go through it again just to get to live here. It's a wonderful place.
Mayor Thomas, I want to ask you one more question. Panama City Beach loaded with hotels, and probably a pretty good housing location for power companies and things like that. Have you seen kind of an uptick? Hey, when you guys get power back on there, can we come in and stay at least based there and then head over here and start fixing things from west to east?
There's some of that going on already. The people over in Mexico Beach and St. Joe, they need a place for their people to stay, and they're going to find it over here. We're going to help all we can do.
I know you will, sir. You're a good man, Mike Thomas. Thanks for talking to us this morning. Again, the mayor of Panama City Beach, again, where Stephanie and I were yesterday at the height of this, getting blown around quite a bit, even with 70 mile per hour and 80 mile per hour wind gusts. It does knock you off your feet, all right? But the farther west that you go into this western eye wall, which is where we are, you can see what 100+ mile per hour wind can do to a structure like this. Probably strong EF1 or EF2 damage, what we're looking at and through here. I just have to look at it a little bit more than I have so far. Some good news here, all right, for the cleanup, for everybody involved. It's October. And it's about time we got a cold front, and we're going to get one. It's working its way now east of Fort Walton Beach, and there's going to be a precipitable drop in the humidity in through here. So, in terms of being outside and the heat and dealing with all that, as we've seen so many times, as we dealt with in Florence, as we dealt with last year in Irma when it was just so hot and there was no power, but yet the cleanup is trying to go on. Kelly, a little bit of good news there, and the fact that at least the weather is going to feel a little bit more fall-like. Cooperate, if you will, with the relief effort down through here. But we got a heck of a mess to clean up. Heck of a mess, Kel.
And thankfully, the weather does look good, not just for the next couple of days, Jim, but into the weekend, and just a slight chance of storms come Monday for the Florida Panhandle. But overall, we need good weather to get past this and kind of assess the damage. You can see we also had severe weather along with the hurricane moving on through. Even tornado touchdowns reported south of Atlanta. This is in the town of Horns. Multiple structures damaged there along Flint River. Also Lake Geneva. This is the northern parts of Florida, just south of Jacksonville. Tornado touchdown as well. Obviously, they'll inspect the damage and determine exactly what took place. All right, the rainfall still taking place in Columbia. We are up over an inch in about an hour's time, and it's still pouring. And along with that, you've got the stronger winds gusting well over 40 miles per hour. Jim made a good point earlier with Florence and all the damage it did to the Carolinas just a month ago. The trees are going to be more susceptible and vulnerable to coming down, even with winds not that strong. And we still have a tornado threat, especially to the east of our center as it continues to move across the Carolinas. We still have the winds at different strength through the atmosphere as this thing finally winds down and coming from a different direction as well. We call that wind shear, and that will aid in the severe weather that we'll likely find along the eastern portions of the Carolinas, moving up to southeastern Virginia as well. So it's about a 30 to 40% chance that we could see tornadoes across this region. That's our Torcon right there, a 4 for eastern Carolinas and southeast Virginia. So make sure you have a way to get those warnings. Well, the threat for flooding from Michael also extends up the eastern seaboard. That includes places that cannot afford to see much more rain. But right now, the center is right near Augusta, if not over Augusta, Georgia. Mike Seidel is driving around there. We do have a flood watch in place through tonight, Mike, and that means getting around could be quite dangerous.
Yeah, here the rain has ended, and that's good. We've had about 2¼ inches of rain here in Augusta. The winds gusted here 45 miles an hour, and now the pressure is rising rapidly. That's a great thing. The center is now past Augusta, heading into South Carolina. Speaking of South Carolina, power outages mounting. About an hour ago, 42,000 customers in the state, now 62,000, so up about 50%. Take you back to about 5 this morning when the core of Michael was moving over us. And take a look, Matt Safer grabbing video of the wind and the rain. Again, gusts 40, 45 miles an hour, taking down some trees, but certainly not widespread swath of trees. With that said, we do have in this area in Richmond County, we have about 10% of customers without power in this county alone. But statewide, we're up about 350,000 customers. So the radar showing the rain moving out. We have the flash flood warning in Columbia till 9:15. Just checking there, they have gusted in Columbia to 46 miles an hour. They've had 1 inch and 2/3, looking for another 1 to 2 inches. Thus, watch out in that part of the state, the central part of the state, for some localized flooding. But better news ahead. Cold front coming through, temperatures dropping off, few showers this morning, and then fall weather, the coldest weather or coolest weather we've seen in the southeast since back in early May. In fact, it hasn't been below 60 in Atlanta, Jim Cantori, since May 4th. So a refreshing change, long overdue after a hot and dry September. And as you mentioned, it couldn't be any nicer weather-wise for cleanup down there where you are on the Gulf Coast.
And that's exactly what we need down and through here. Again, guys, we continue to keep an eye on what's happening here. Notice, again, off behind me, starting to see the sunrise on what is going to be a day of, wow, for a lot of people as they see the destruction that a historic hurricane named Michael caused in October. We'll be right back.
What you didn't say when you get onto the moon.
A lot of things have to go right before that happens. We need to fail down here so we don't fail up there.
This isn't just another trip, Neil. You're not just going to work.
We got bad fire! They're gone.
What are the chances this is the last time the boys are going to see you?
Good luck.
We have serious problems.
First Man, rated PG-13.
Experience a blend of refined craftsmanship and raw power, engineered to take the crown. The Lexus LS500 and LS500H. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Jardiance asked, and now you know. Jardiance is the only type 2 diabetes pill proven to both reduce the risk of cardiovascular death for adults who have type 2 diabetes and heart disease and lower A1C with diet and exercise.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration. This may cause you to feel dizzy, faint, or lightheaded, or weak upon standing. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, and trouble breathing. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of ketoacidosis or an allergic reaction. Symptoms of an allergic reaction include rash, swelling, and difficulty breathing or swallowing. Do not take Jardiance if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Other side effects are sudden kidney problems, genital yeast infections, increased bad cholesterol, and urinary tract infections, which may be serious. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you have any medical conditions.
Isn't it time to rethink your type 2 diabetes medication? Ask your doctor about Jardiance and get to the heart of what matters.
All right, I brought in Ensure Max Protein to give you the protein you need with less of the sugar you don't. I'll take that.
30 grams of protein and 1 gram of sugar. Ensure Max Protein in 2 great flavors.
Everything was so fresh in the beginning, but that plug quickly faded. Luckily, there's new Febreze plug. It cleans away odors and freshens for 1,200 hours. Breathe happy with new Febreze plug.
Is mealtime a struggle? Introducing Ore-Ida Potato Pay, where Ore-Ida Golden Crinkles are your crispy currency to pay for bites of this with this.
Enjoy luxury for less at Alpaca Lincoln.